I got a great question for you. Who is the only quarterback, overall number one draft pick in NFL, to be able in his first 2 years lead his team to the Super Bowl? Who is the only quarterback that was an overall first round draft pick to do it in his first 2 years? First 2 years. If you're from Cincinnati, you know the answer. That would be cool Joe Burrow. Hats off to him. Welcome again. I'm Coach Bull Jones. Welcome to Coach One Sports. We're going to sit down and chat for a minute about 5 reasons why the Cincinnati Bengals were able to take out those Kansas City Chiefs, the great Pat Mahomes. Okay, we're talking about one of the greatest young quarterbacks in the game. Well, folks, a lot of people thought it would be a gunslinging match, but guess what? That's not what happened. That's not really what happened. So let me break down with you 5 of the things that really happened in this game that really helped the Bengals turn out to be victorious. And I'll give all hats off and credit to Joe Burrow. Yes, the LSU Heisman winner, national champion, coming off an ACL, MCL, PCL injury. You're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, who just 2 years ago won 2 games. You watched him come back, sports fans, and perform. I don't want to call it a miracle. I just want to call it Joe Cool. He was that way the whole game. He was that way before the game. During the middle of the game, when the pressure times came, he performed at his greatest level, which you and I both know. To see who's going to be the best. See, not everybody could, but a lot of people can be great when everything's not on the line. But when it's money time, can you be that guy? Kansas City was 21-0 when scoring first. 21-0 when scoring first. So what happens? They turn around. Turn 21-0 when scoring first in the playoffs. 21-0. They were up 21-3, folks. And one of the greatest comebacks that we've had a chance to see in the last couple of years in the NFL happened. 18-point deficit. They come back. 5 reasons. Let's start with the first one. And there's no particular order, so I just want you all to know that there was a collective things. The coach and me just wants to sit and chat. So pull up a chair, make sure that you are tuned in and focus on what I'm about to bring to you. One of the biggest things that happened, you're talking about a young team. The Cincinnati Bengals, one of the youngest teams in the NFL, able to come out there with Coach Zach Taylor, and they had a win at home, 34-31 against that same Kansas City Chiefs team. In fact, at halftime, there was a 13-point deficit, okay? And with that 13-point deficit, they came back. Jamar Chase had over 220 yards in receptions in that game. He put on a clinic. But it was the Chiefs that jumped out. Well, what happened again? Joe Cool was able to make some things happen, be able to help them be victorious in the end. So you're talking about a no-fear element. And one thing about it, especially from a coaching standpoint, you don't have to really convince your players that they belong in the game to win a game such as what we saw this past weekend. You don't have to convince them because they've faced those guys before and they're saying to themselves, guess what? We can get them again. Okay, this time it's for all the marbles. It's for all the money. So when you're young, you have no fear, undefeated on the road in the playoffs, already beat KC 34-31 earlier in the season. So you come out with your chest out. And here is the part that I enjoyed watching from the Bengals. Sports fans, they weren't fazed. They didn't get up too high. At the first part of the game when things weren't going well for them, and KC jumped out on them, they didn't panic. And listen, I'm talking about collectively. As the cameras panned around to show the faces of the players on defense and offense, all of them had that same look like, okay, we're going to be fine. We just got to weather the storm, weather the cheering from a packed house at Arrowhead Stadium, and be able to play our type of football. First half, they stuck to their run game. Run game didn't work as well in the first half. But Coach Callahan, OC, stuck to his guns on that and made sure that they tried to keep a balanced deal going on. In fact, the KC defense, with all the rah-rah and all the great play, the two high safety looks and coming down, nobody was blitzing the first half of the game. Didn't see any blitzes. Both of them playing a cover two, two high safeties, bringing pressure. But those 4 down linemen at both teams didn't blitz, but both teams had their just front 4 playing defense and trying to keep everything in front of them. So the chess match started early. So when you talk about that youth, that adrenaline to be better than the guy in front of you was a key factor for the Cincinnati Bengals. Folks, they didn't care that Patrick Mahomes had already won a Super Bowl. They didn't care that Tyreek Hill was over there. Cole Hardman was over there. That didn't faze them. Okay, Kelsey was on the other side. That didn't faze them. And even though there were big plays in the game, here's the thing as a coach that I was looking to see. At what point in the game did those young guys get frustrated, okay, and start bickering and going at each other and yelling because somebody blew a coverage, somebody had a wrong block and didn't pick up the proper blocking assignment? At what point did somebody crack under pressure? Didn't see it. Great job, Coach Zach Taylor and that Bengal team. So the youth was one factor. Another factor was really the play calling by the OC. Coach Callahan did a fantastic job. Second half, he came out and threw more on first down. But the backbreakers in the game were 2 screenplays. One went to Samaj Perine for a touchdown, 41-yard touchdown that caught KC bringing that pressure again. And that was one of those times when they did blitz, okay? And they turned around 41-yard touchdown in the first half. That was special. That really took the air out because before that, there wasn't a whole lot nick and tuck that the Bengals were able to really move the ball a whole bunch. And in fact, Joe Burrow didn't do well in definitely the first quarter. And he did face pressure. Did a great job of being very elusive, getting away from the pressure. KC's front 4 was bringing that gas at him, folks. And he was being able to move in the pocket. He was so little, I don't want to call him rattled, but he felt the pressure, had to pop out of that pocket, keep his eyes downfield and get the ball thrown off. And he tried to target Jamar Chase, who I thought KC did a very good job of catching him on the deep stuff, made sure that they bracketed him a couple of times, and they tried to disguise it sometimes, an in-out game where your safety takes the inside half and your corner takes the outside half. Sometimes your corner takes the under. It's called hook and trail, where he lets the receiver get past him and he hook and trail, follow him, and then you have safety help over the top. Well, Callahan did a great job of making sure that he did not put Jamar Chase on that one side by himself a lot. In second half adjustments, he's able to get him the football, and he just changed up some of the things that he wanted to do with it. He turned around and made the route shorter. Okay, he moved Chase around a little bit. Okay, so he ran a couple of curl routes, but the greatest part of what Callahan did was he made sure that in a 2x2 set, he brought that inside slot receiver over, number 11, and that turned into a 3 receivers on one side, and it forced KC to turn around and go to the more zone looks. And what happened with those zone looks, that allowed Jamar Chase to come underneath on curl routes, caught a couple of passes. But more importantly, it allowed T. Higgins to now be in a one-man coverage deal where he had just one cornerback on him because all the coverage rolled over to the 3 receiver side. I thought that was outstanding. It didn't happen as much in the first half. And hats off to the Cincinnati offense, Coach Zach Taylor, CJ Usama. I'm going to get it right. CJ Usama, when he hurt himself. Folks, I thought it was a broken ankle. It wasn't a broken ankle. It was a severe knee sprain, but the look on his face and not being able to return to the team. And the last 8 to 10 ball games. He's been having a great season. And I know what was playing through his head. He got hurt last year. So he's going deja vu. Here I am hurt again. But he was able to go into the locker room, come back out on crutches, still support his team. But I watched how his teammates related to him when he came back out. And I watched the look on his face because there was still a ball game to play. And he's a big part of that offense. And they lost him. So for the OC Callahan to be able to check down to some other people, because now next man's got to step up. That's a corny phrase we use, but it works. It's highly effective. So that second part I want to talk about was the offensive play calling. It was great. And when it's all said and done, it's once again, how do you work in those tough situations? After the third series, your one of your leading receivers is gone. So now the game plan, did it change or did they stay the same? They made some adjustments. Fascinating part of coaching. I call it the greatest thing in the world because on Sunday evening, everybody in America, everybody's a coach on their couch and they can tell you what to do and how to do it. But when you have to call the number, that determines are you the big dog or the little dog? Are you the hush puppy or are you the big dog? Calling those plays in front of 52 million people, however many people are watching the game on Sunday evening. Are you the show or can you help create the show? The offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. And talking about that offensive coordinator, let me talk about the third thing that really helped. Evan McPherson, clutch. He was 13 points. You talk about special teams, that's what it is. It's special. Everybody can't do it. 4 for 4 on field goals, and plus he had an extra point conversion. But 52-yard field goal, clutch, in the playoffs, batting 1,000. When you talk about baseball, but we're talking about football. Evan McPherson came through, young kid, no fear, ice in his veins. I don't know where that phase ever came from. I don't know, but it works. It worked for him. And special teams and the part that when you can control that game, especially in the playoffs, to get to that Super Bowl, if you have those sudden moments of success that help you and help your team to flip the field, okay? Another crucial part of it, a part of that special teams and the kickoff coverage. Taking the ball, KC came out of their end zone with the football, only got to the 19-yard line. Sports fans, the goal is to get to the 25. So those 6 yards make a difference. But the Bengals, and the crazy part about it, watching P. Ryan, the running back, score a touchdown first half and then turn around and run down on special teams. I mean, I love it because some people think that the big-time players can't be on special teams. They need to sometimes. And listen, if you look at some of the most successful teams out there, they have to be on the field. The best 11 got to be on the field. So they had a special stop in that first half. And that leads me to talking about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, as I mentioned earlier, the cool play caller. Folks, he's so young and he takes everything in stride. And his leadership is by his actions. That is the best part of what he was able to do against the Chiefs. And all of the highlights came talking about Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Well, guess what, sports fan? That wasn't the determining factor in the game. Okay. Now, let me get back to another point. The fourth point I want to make is Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that combination. 12 catches between them, 157 yards, 1 touchdown. Sports fans, guess what? In the first half, Jamar Chase was almost shut out. Okay? He had 1 catch for 8 yards. He was targeted 3 times. Okay, so that goes back to big-time players making big-time plays in big-time games. And he is a beast. Hats off to Coach Taylor for making sure that the confidence they talked about and the adrenaline from the fantastic ending of the first half those last minute 30 seconds, how that transferred over, because it's contagious feeling of wanting to be successful. And what can you do to help your team win? T. Higgins, solid killer in there. Everybody's worried about number one. He came up with clutch catches in the second half, some fascinating catches across the middle, out-leaping people for balls. And once again, the game plan did involve a tight end to start the game, but when Usama went out, plans changed. Prepare for sudden change. Adapt, improvise, overcome. I thought that T. Higgins did his part, Jamar Chase, and of course with his touchdown catch, one-hand catch with cornerback all over him. That's what the big-time players do. Last but not least, I'm a defensive guy, so let's talk about the defense. And I don't know if I got enough time, so you might want to fasten your seatbelt on this one. Okay, the only points that was scored by KC in the second half was 3 points. That's because of the defense of the Cincinnati Bengals. The defensive adjustments, everybody wants to talk about it. Can I tell y'all something, sports fans? They didn't have to make adjustments. Only thing they did wrong the first half was it was called eye discipline. The secondary understood Patrick Mahomes was going to take off rushing. But if you're a defensive back, and if there is man concepts where something is coming to you and you're matching up with it, which is what happened the other night, then you can't look at Patrick Mahomes and look at Tyreek Hill, who runs a 4-2, maybe a 4-1 running at you. So that's what they did wrong. Okay, they just took their eyes. They didn't keep the discipline of their eyes on the receiver. They tried to look at Mahomes, the quarterback, and the receivers running in their zones. And then even on the crossing routes, when Tyreek Hill caught, it was an under route where the nickel cornerback had Tyreek on under coverage, hook and trail. But he turned back and looked. I tell my kids all the time, every time you turn back and look at the quarterback, you slow down. But the reality is the ball wasn't meant for you, so why are you looking at the quarterback anyway? How about that? Okay, makes sense to me. Okay, man concepts, too high, man under, two match. Okay, all those things that came into play. But here's the fascinating part of the first half. The first half, when Mahomes had those touchdown passes, and he had to scramble because of the pressure. Guess what, sports fans? The pressure. Hendrickson, Hubbard, Reeder, Wilson, they all had B.J. Hill, who had an interception in the game. The pressure was there in the first half. The coverage, all they had to do at halftime, okay, defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, I promise you I'm going to get your last name right because I don't want to mess it up tonight, but I love what you did. You settled them young bucks down. Von Bell is the old man back there in the secondary from Georgia, from North Georgia, by way, I think, of Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken. But you settled those guys down, and you reminded them, stick to your guy. We don't have to change anything because if you fix your eyes, you're in the secondary, you four guys are covering. The front seven is who's rushing. Those front seven guys are the ones that have to get to Mahomes. He got away a couple of times, trying to scramble. Coach made a great adjustment. One of the only adjustments, he just started to spy. He dropped 3. He rushed 3. And in fact, 3 sacks in the second half. Awesome. 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions in the second half. One of the most prolific offenses in NFL football. And another thing that stood out, second half, the secondary coverage was so tight because they said, guess what, coach? We're going to follow your instructions. We're going to stop looking at Mahomes. We're going to trust what you coached us to do the whole week. We're going to follow our guy. Sports fan, do you know that KC had 9 drop passes in the second half? Those same fantastic receivers, Hardeman, Kelsey, Hill, McKinnon, they all dropped passes. They dropped passes. 9 in the second half. When have you seen the receivers for Kansas City ever drop 9? Okay? Did you see the part where Hardeman and Tyreek Hill were going back and forth? Folks, do you know that Tyreek Hill did not catch a ball the second half? Defense wins championships. Don't ever forget that. Defense wins championships. I know all that stuff looked pretty throwing the ball around, but defense wins championships. And the last interception of the game came when they threw a deep pass to Tyreek Hill, and it was intercepted. Great coverage by the corner, safety help over the top, tipped into his hands, Von Bell. He turns around, runs it back towards the 50-yard line. Next thing you know, Joe Cool comes back up the offense. They run the ball, kick it for the field goal, and that's the ball game in overtime. Cincinnati wins. Sports fans, great game. Just wanted to tell you the 5 things that happened in that game on why the Cincinnati Bengals. Hats off to you. Joe Cool, you impressed me. Okay? Nugget for everybody to remember. There's only been 2 quarterbacks that have won a national championship, Heisman, and a Super Bowl. Okay? There's only 2, Joe Montana and Joe Namath. Joe Cool, will you be the next one? If you all enjoyed the show, please make sure, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to have more of this for you. I'm going to bring my friends on soon, and we're going to talk some more about some other games. But I just want to tell y'all, when it's all said and done, defense wins championships. And that offensive stuff is real pretty. But it ain't that bad when you got Joe Cool with you. Coach Zach Taylor, Coach Bull Jones just wants to tell you, awesome game. Way to go on the road. Ice in your veins. Took one from a great football team, and it was convincing. Special teams, defense, and the necessary play calling on offense. It was just those little things on offense that made the difference. On defense, the defense went to work, shut down one of the best offensive teams in the NFL. And you know what the great part about it is, those 2 teams, I got a feeling, are going to be meeting like that quite a bit in the near future. 2 young quarterbacks, great coaches, great game. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit that little button, subscribe, like, comment. I want to know what you thought about what we talked about tonight. 5 reasons why the Cincinnati Bengals are in the Super Bowl. Coach One Sports. Check me out. Coach Kevin Bull Jones. We'll see you later.